नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् यस्वानुभावम् अखिलश्रुतिसारमेकम् अध्यात्मदीपम् अतितितीष्यतां तमोऽन्तम् संसारिणां करुणयाः पुराणगुह्यं तं व्याससूनुम् उपयामि गुरुं मुनीनाम्. After a detailed response from Brahma to Narada, which included an exhilarating summary of all summaries, a summary of all avatars of Bhagavan. After recounting this conversation between Brahma and Narada, Parikshit is kindled to ask more questions to Shuka Brahma. We have been seeing that within the conversation between Shuka and Parikshit, in order to address some questions of Parikshit, Shuka borrowed the conversation between Narada and Brahma. So that conversation between Narada and Brahma was concluded in the 7th Adhyaya of the Dvitiya Skanda. And it is part of that conversation that Parikshit received the summary of all summaries of all the avatars. Now Parikshit further continues his question. Parikshit obviously is in a great hurry and he wants to use every moment of Shuka's presence. And therefore, Parikshit begins once again his conversation, resumes his conversation with Shuka, and he addresses Shuka and he says, Yetat veditu vichchami tattvam tattvavidam vara hare adbhutaviryasya kathaloka sumangala. Now, Parikshit, he has now received the nectarine summary of all Bhagavan's avatars. This Harikatha in summary has kindled more curiosity in Parikshit. He says, Hey Sukha, etat veditu michchami tattvam tattva vidamvara. He says, I want to listen more on Bhagavan, the reality of this universe, the supreme truth. Hare adbhutaviryasya, he says. I want to know more about Bhagavan's adbhutavirya, his wonderful prowess. So whenever we listen to Harikatha, Bhagavan's avatars, we are also kindled with this curiosity. Bhagavan has this aghatita ghatana samarthya. All his atimanusha cheshtitas are the suprahuman activities, are the result, outcome of the wonderful prowess that he is endowed with. Hare adbhutaviryasya, he says. Katha loka sumangala. The more people listen to Krishna's glories, the more auspicious they become. The mind becomes purified with Krishna Katha. And therefore, Parikshit says, I am very, very keen to listen more on Adbhutavirya of Bhagavan. In the Gita, Krishna talks about his Adbhutavirya, his wonderful prowess. He and he alone can play multiple roles at the same time. And nobody else can do that. Krishna says, Gatir Bharta Prabhusakshi Nivasa Saranam Sugulpil Prabhava Pralayasthanam Nidhanam Dijamudhyayam, says. Wonder of wonders. Look at how Bhagavan is capable of playing a variety of roles all at the same time He is all in one. Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshihi Nivasaha Sharanam Suhrit. In the first line, he talks about Bhagavan's individual relationship with each and every one of us. And then he talks about his relationship with the totality of this universe. Prabhava pralayasthanam vidhanam bhijamavyayam, he says. Gatihi. Bhagavan is the goal. He's not an ordinary goal. He's the goal of all goals. Every other goal keeps changing. Every other goal we can think of is changing all the time. Never static. If there is only one goal, which is static, remains the same all the time, that is the goal of all goals, which is Krishna himself. That is the reason why he is Gatihi. He is Gatihi, but he is also Bharta. So he is the goal, he is the destination, he is the journey too. He is not just the destination, he is there every step of the journey, supporting us towards the destination. He is Bharta, the one who sustains and supports us. Every step of the journey to make the journey as wonderful, as beautiful as the destination itself. Therefore, he is Gatihi, he is Bharta. Now, here itself we see Adbhuta Virya of Bhagavan. Only Bhagavan can be both the Gati and the Bharta. Not only that, Gatir Bharta Prabhu. He is the goal, he is the supporter and sustainer. He also is the Prabhu, the Lord, who wills, who orchestrates the journey. He is the one who orchestrates the journey towards the goal, which he himself is. Gatir Bhatta Prabhu Sakshi. While he is orchestrating this whole journey, he remains a witness all the time. Is he an ordinary witness who doesn't reciprocate? No. Gatir Bhatta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasam. Nivasa is the abode. Now, Krishna specifically, even the destination is his abode, but he also, instead of just saying just he is Gati, he also adds abode to reiterate the point that he is not just a long-term goal. Because we may happily conclude Krishna is our long-term goal, short-term, mid-term, we can think of something else. In order to ensure that we do not misconstrue and have wrong goals, he says he is also Nivasam, which means he is not only the long-term goal, he is both the short-term, mid-term goal as well. He is our abode all the time. It is Krishna who is our Gati. It is Krishna who is our Bharta. It is Krishna who is our Prabhu. It is Krishna who is our Nivasa. He is Krishna who is our Sakshi. Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasaha Saranam. He also is the only one. He is the only means for both Ishta Prapti and Anishta Nivritti. Ishta Prapti, he is the one, he is the means to attain what we like. He is the means to ensure Anishta Nivritti, to ensure that whatever we do not want, do not like, is also taken care of. And therefore, he is Sharanam, he is the refuge, and he is our Suhrit. He is our well-wisher. The variety of roles that Bhagavan plays demonstrates his Adbhuta Virya. This is one-to-one relationship between Bhagavan and each and every one of us. Gatihi, Bharta, Prabhu, Sakshihi, Nivasaha, Saranam, Suhrit. Now, not only that, Totality of this universe and Bhagavan also has some very unique relationship. Prabhavaha pralayasthanam nidanam bijam avyayam. He is the source of the origination and cessation. Prabhavaha pralayasthanam nidhanam. He is the treasure that we possess. Nidanam bijam avyayam. Again, Adbhuta Vidya Bhagavan. Bija is the seed. He is the seed from which everything emanates. But unlike an ordinary seed, he is an indestructible seed. Everlasting. Everything emanates from him. He remains unchanged. He is everlasting. No impact whatsoever. That is the reason why here Parikshit is talking about Hare Adbhuta Viryasya. That Adbhuta Virya of Bhagavan I'm more keen to understand. So this is what is eventually going to lead into towards the concluding part of the Dvitiya Skanda, what is popularly called the Chatushloki Bhagavata. With 4 shlokas, the Adbhuta Virya of Bhagavan is going to be summarized. But before that, Parikshit has a lot more questions that need to be answered. The Parikshit says, Hare Adbhuta Viryasya Kathaloka Sumangalaha. I would like to know more, listen more about Bhagavan's wonders and his wonderful prowess. And Parikshit says, Kathayasva Mahabhaga, Mahabhaga, addressing Shukha, Kathayasva Mahabhaga, Yataham Akhilatmani, Krishne Nideshya Nissangam, Manasyakshe Kalevaram. Please continue your narration. Hey, Sukha, do not stop. No, it looks like Sukha at one point stopped after recounting all the summaries of the avataras. It looks like Sukha took a pause and Parikshit was worried. He says, please do not pause. Continue your narration. I know that you are capable of continuous narration, hey Sukha. You don't need rest. Parikshit is in a hurry. He says, please do not stop your narration, hey Sukha. Continue your narration of Krishna's glories. Yataham Akilatmani Krishne Nileshya Nissangam, he says. Please continue your narration of Krishna Katha so that Krishne Niveshya, so that I can place my mind upon Krishna, the Paramatma. Which means essentially saying, let my mind be filled with Krishna and Krishna alone. Keep narrating, keep talking about Krishna's glories. Let Krishna's glories keep coming in and fill my mind. Krishna Niveshya. Why that is needed? Krishna Niveshya Nissangam. Nissanga. In order for me to completely detach from this world, the only way I can do that is when I fill myself with Krishna. Satsangatve, Krishna Sangatvam. Krishna Sangatve, Nissangatvam. Krishna Sangatve, Nissangatvam. Nissangatve, Krishna Trishnatatvam. Krishna Trishnatatve, Vaikuntha Prapti. This is what Parikshit is saying. Krishna Niveshya Nissangam. He says, how do I detach from all this world? The worldly attachments have been ruling me all throughout my life. So there is an important realization here for Parikshit. If we don't give up our attachments willingly and freely, we will have to give them up unwillingly, unhappily, and by force. This is the reality of life. If we don't give up our attachments willingly, we will have to give them away unwillingly. Unfortunately, unhappily as well. When we don't give up, what we don't give up gets taken away from us. In reality, we have no choice. We think we have a choice. What we don't give up, what we get hold on to, one day or the other will be taken away, whether we like it or not. Material loss is inevitable. And definitely, it is definitely the time of death. And Parikshit realizes this. Therefore, life devoted to material gains alone is a loss of an opportunity. Therefore, what is life meant to be? It is meant to be is meant to receive spiritual gains all the time. So therefore, one need to be maintaining a log of debits and credits, but not material debits and credits, spiritual debits and credits. One need to be constantly be on the lookout for spiritual profit and forget about material profit all the time. Because material profit at the end of the day is only a loss. Loss of a golden opportunity called life. So Parikshit, more than anybody, realizes this. Now he knows. He knows he has a limited time. Therefore, here he says, hey Sukha, please let the narration continue. Krishne Nidesha Nissangam Manas Yakshe Kalevaram, he says. That is the only way, that I can comfortably leave my body. I can give up my body. I relinquish this body. I can relinquish it. Until then, it becomes very difficult to relinquish it. Because the attachment is so deep, it is impossible for me if I have to relinquish willingly, not just all my possessions, but relinquish this very body. I need to be necessarily filled with Krishna. My mind and heart needs to be filled with it. Therefore, what is the easiest way, the effortless way, is listening to Harikatha. So this is why Shravana is placed right at the very foundation of a spiritual journey. Without Shravana, spiritual journey is not possible at all. And that is where Parikshit himself is leading to it. He says, he tells Shuka, and he says, Shuka, Shrimbata Shraddhaya Nityam, Granatascha Swacheshtitam, Kale, Nati Dirghena, Bhagavan Vishate Vidi. Now, Parikshit is now talking on behalf of all of us as well. He says, Shrimbata Shraddhaya Nityam. When one with Shraddha, earnestness, with total faith, continues and Nityam, continuously. So it cannot be just a hobby. It cannot be that when it suits me, when it is convenient, I will lend my ear to Krishna. Otherwise, my ear is something else. Here, it's very Nityam. He underlines the word Nityam. Shraddhaya Nityam. Shrinvata Shraddhaya Nityam. Granatascha Swachetitam. Those who listen to Krishna's glories regularly with earnestness, with total faith. And he said, Granataha. Granataha means taking the matter very seriously. Listening to Krishna's glories, Parikshit says, has to be taken very seriously, he says. Because he knows that we conveniently postpone this. After retirement, there is enough time for us. Enough time after retirement. Until then, there are so many things we need to accomplish. After retirement, what will I do? Only Krishna Katha then. It may be too late by then. So he says, this matter has to be taken up seriously now. It needs to be prioritized. It should be above everything else. Granataha swacheshtitam kalena natidhirghena bhagavan vishate vidi. Only then, he says, only then Krishna will manifest in my heart completely. So he is there, Krishna, sarvasthitaham hridisannivishitaha. He is very much there in our hearts. But the problem is, we do not recognize this. Only when we constantly keep listening to his glories, only then he He manifests to us, which means we begin to recognize him within our hearts. We recognize that all along he has been with us and within us. It is very important to understand that our demanding desires, all our demanding desires only make us incomplete. By trying to fulfill all our demanding desires, we only stay incomplete. We only stay disgruntled. We may think we are fulfilling our desires, but we find that by catering to all those demanding desires, trying to fulfill them, we will remain incomplete, disgruntled, discontent all the time. Only fulfillment of our deepest desire, only that can give us lasting contentment, can make us really complete. That incompleteness that keeps nagging us all the time. From the childhood until adulthood, whatever we accomplish in life, doesn't matter. Whether I am a pauper or a millionaire, no, whether I own one house, 10 houses, there is that sense of nagging incompleteness in us. And that is only when the deepest desire in us, the deepest desire to be fulfilled must be recognized. We need to cut through the maze of all our demanding desires which occupy our mind. If the deepest desire needs to be focused, what is the deepest desire? Deep within, there is a desire. There is a desire to know who I am. There is a desire to know, to long for everlasting love, to connect with Krishna, to serve him. But unless that deepest desire gets focused, we are only running around trying to fulfill all our demanding desires, which take up the bulk of our time and effort. Now, here Parikshit says, only when we continue to listen to Krishna Katha, the glories of Krishna, in order to cut through all the demanding desires and bring focus on our deepest desires, we need to listen to Krishna's glories. And when we keep listening to Krishna's glories, when he manifests, we begin to focus. We begin to bring that focused light on that deepest desire, that longing to belong to Krishna. This is the reason why Parikshit, with whatever time that he has, puts utmost focus on Shravana and Shravana alone. That should demonstrate to us the importance. And he says, Pravishta Karanarandhena Swanam Bhava Saroruham. A very beautiful shloka. He gives a very beautiful analogy as well. Gunodi Shamalam Krishna Salilasya Yata Sharat. He takes the analogy of the beautiful Sharat. So he says, Pravishta Karanarandhena. Karanarandhra, the portal of the ear, entering through the portal of the ear. It seems Krishna takes the avatara in the form of Shabda, because Krishna himself declares that even after his avatara, he stays with us in the form of Bhagavata. We have seen this right at the beginning. When we discussed the Bhagavata Mahatmya, we also saw Krishna's assurance that he will remain. He also assures that he will stay with us forever, as long as we want, in the form of Bhagavata. Every Shabda is Krishna's avatar. That is why it's nectarine. Shukhamukha Amrita. It's not only because of Shukhamukha, it is coming from Shukhamukha, it is also Shabda avatar of Krishna. So therefore, how Krishna manifests within in all glory, Parikshit says, Pravishta Karanarandhena, he says. It seems Krishna, as in the form of Shabda, enters the portal of the ear. And then what happens? Once that Shabda enters through the portal of the ear, Pravishta Karanarandhena Swanam Bhava Saroruham. Swanam Bhava Saroruham. From the portal of the ear, it reaches directly to our Hridaya Kamala. And Once it enters there it seems that Krishna comfortably seats himself on the lotus within our heart, fully manifesting himself, revealing himself in all his glory to us. And he manifests himself, he also brings to light that everlasting loving bond that we have with him, that unique, inseparable relationship that we have with him. Swanam Bhava Saroruham. Then Parikshit says, he gives an analogy, he says, what happens then? Dhunoti Shamalam. The moment that happens, Dhunoti, cleansing begins to happen. All the dirt, all the dust, everything that has accumulated over ages, over lifetimes, not one lifetime, over several lifetimes, all the impurities, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsaryas, everything gets cleansed thoroughly. Dhoti Shamalam. How? Parikshit gives a beautiful analogy. He says, Salilasta Yata Sharatu. Sharad Ritu is a very beautiful season where the rains have a very during the autumn season, there is a purpose for the rains. It seems during the autumn season when it rains, those rains clarify the muddy pools of water. The muddy pools of water, the water in the muddy pools becomes clear, crystal clear, gets clarified completely. So the muddy pool of the mind is completely cleared and clarified, just like how the beautiful autumnal rain, the Krishna Katha that comes in through the portal of the year, with which Krishna manifests himself, begins to cleanse all the dirt, and that's how. Therefore, he says, the Parikshit submits himself and to Shukha and says, Dhautatma Purusha Krishna Adamulam Namuchati Mukta Sarva Parikleshaha Pantasva Sharanam Yatha. He says, a pure devotee of the Lord, whose heart and mind is cleansed, is purified, immediately realizes that his home is at the lotus feet of Krishna. Just like how Pantasva Sharanam Yatha, just like how a traveler who's been going all around, troubled journey, trying to find his peace, finally realizes that he has been wasting his time going all around. He finds a home after a troubled journey at the lotus feet of Krishna. Bhutatma Purusha Krishna Adamulam Namunchati Mukta Sarva Parikleshaha Pantasvam Sharanam Yatha. Therefore, he surrenders, Parikshit surrenders to Shukha and says, Shukha, please continue your narration. And I would like to know more. And let me also tell you in specific, let me be more specific what I would like to also listen as part of Harikatha, as part of your narration. I know that you have come here with treasury of knowledge passed down to you by none other than your father, Vedavyasa. Therefore, I would like to have answers to a list of questions. Then Parikshit takes out a list. It's not any small list. No. When we start listening to Parikshit's questions, we say, aha, these are the questions that we have been asking. These are the questions for which we have been wanting answers. Wonder, Bhagavatam has answers to all the questions. So when we listen to what Parikshit is asking, many times we have discussed these questions also. And so the Parikshit therefore begins a list. It's not a simple list, it's a long list. It says, how did the Jivatma who is sentient, who is spiritual in nature, how did he attain a body which is superior, which is insentient? How did this association happen? And why this Jivatma is continuing in the samsara? Now, the body, the form of Bhagavan seems to be similar to the body of a human. What is the difference between them? Same questions we keep asking. Bhagavan seems to look like us. If without really asking the question the other way around, if we seem to look like Bhagavan, we are very, very human centric and we think. Therefore, we ask, did, did we manufacture his form to be human like? This is our ego, our bloated ego speaking. Now, Parikshit obviously is not asking the question. He's asking the other way around because Parikshit, unlike us, is a great Mahatma. He says, Bhagavan's body seems to look like our body. What is the difference between the two? What is the difference? Is it the same? When Krishna himself says this, Avajananti mam mudaha manushim tanumashritam. The mudhas, when I take a form, they think it is human life. It should be the other way around. Here Parikshit is saying, what is the difference between the two forms? Also, when Brahma emanated from the lotus-like navel of Narayana, and he also took a material body. What is the difference between that material body and the source from which the whole material creation happened? Also, you talked about Bhagavan being Antaryami, being present in every living entity. Now, if every living entity, if he is present, how come he is not tainted? How come he is not tainted by all the impurities of this world if he is present within? When he says you spoke about Kalpa, you spoke about Vikalpa, can you talk to me more about what the Kalpa and Vikalpa? Kalpa is a full cycle of time between the manifestation and the dissolution. The whole time span, and Vikalpa is an intermediate cycle of time. Can you talk about at length about Kalpa? Can you talk about dimensions of time? You talked about time being one of the factors of creation. Can you talk about the various dimensions of time? And also, what about the lifespans of different kinds of species, different kinds of living beings? You also talked about the relativity of time and different perspective of time in different lokas. Can you talk about action of time at a macro level and a micro level? What about action of karmic reactions? How about how various karmic activities are responsible eventually for the various configurations of the material bodies that the jivas take? What is the relationship between a form and the karma the jivatma carries? You also talked about various lokas and creation of the various lokas. Can you talk about various inhabitants of these lokas? You talked about where the Brahmanda, and you give me a perspective of the dimensions of this Brahmanda. I would also like to know more about the life and times and activities of great devotees, the great bhaktas of Bhagavan. And in that context, what kind of dharma did they follow? So therefore, I would like to also know Varnashrama dharma. You talked about yugas and yugavataras. Can you tell me more about various duration of yugas, yuga dharma and yugavataras? In that context, I'm also keen to know what is dharma, what is sadharana dharma, what is vishesha dharma, what is apad dharma. I would also like to know the various categories of Prakriti and how they impact this creation. How do I worship the Supreme Being? What are the various sadhanas? And in particular, can you give me an elucidation on Bhakti Yoga? And what is liberation? What is moksha? And for moksha, along with the gross body, should the subtle body also be destroyed? If so, how does that happen? What is the conclusion of all the Vedic scriptures? Is it all about deliverance of the jiva from the samsara? If so, what are the various rules of conduct prescribed for the jiva when the jiva engages in a life of samsara? What are the rules and the rules of conduct laid down in the itihasas, puranas, shrutis, smritis? And what are the various purusharthas of life? Now you talked about pralaya. What happens to the jivas in pralaya? When they reappear, what happens to their karma? All these seem to be coming somewhere from what we have already been discussing. What is the origin of Nastikas? What is the origin of atheism? How does the Lord perform various leaders and at the same time remain using his Yogamaya, remain completely detached. Very, very long list of questions that Parikshit asks. Now, all of us say, are we going to get answers to all of these questions in this very session? I'm sorry. Let me not set a very wrong expectations here. Are we going to get answers to all of these questions in this Adhyaya? Sorry, you're not going to get answers to that. Are we going to get answers to all of these questions in this Kanda? Not really. Are we going to get answers to all of these questions in Srimad Bhagavatam? Yes. Loud and clear, yes. So therefore, the bottom line is we need to go through the whole journey of Bhagavatam together to get total clarity on all answers to all the questions. But as we see here, these are the questions that we keep talking about, and in one way or the other, Parikshit kind of puts all of them together and lists out, and finally he says, Sarvametacha Bhagavan Pritchato me Anupurvasaha Tatvato Arhasi Udahartum Atannayamaha. Parikshit is doing exactly what Krishna says in the Gita. Tadviddhi Pranipadena Prashnena Sevaya Upadekshantite Jnanam Jnaninaha Tatashinaha. How do we get answers to our questions? Tadviddhi Pranipadena Pariprashnena Sevaya. Upadekshantite Jnaninaha Tattvadarshinaha. To a Tattvadarshi, one must surrender, and in that state of surrender, one must ask all the right questions in the right way, one can get the right answers. That's exactly what Parikshit is doing here. Completely surrendering to Sukha, and in that state of surrender, is answering all the questions in a way on behalf of us. Now, Sukha obviously is, Sukha finds this is the time for me to take a breath, because he lets Parikshit to continuously ask the questions, because he needs the time possibly to collect his thoughts as well, so that he can structure the response to Parikshit. So Parikshit, after coming up with the whole list of questions, then he finally says, Sukha, please enlighten me with the answers to all of these questions. Parikshit also says, I know my list of questions is not comprehensive at all. Therefore, when you provide your answers, you ensure that you not only answer all my questions, but you also give me answers to the questions that I have not asked for. This is exactly also what happens in the Gita. Now, Arjuna definitely had asked questions to Krishna, no doubt, on our behalf. But the compassionate Bhagavan not only gives answers to the questions that Arjuna poses, he goes over and beyond and gives a lot more. And this is exactly what Sukha is also going to do, going to go over and beyond what Parikshit has already asked. So Parikshit then begins his response. Sukha begins his response to Parikshit. Atmayam Viderajan Parasyanubhavatmanaha Pragatedatta Samshandaha Swapnadashtu Ivanchasa. He takes up the question of the Sambandha. How do we explain this chalk and cheese relationship? Somehow, the Atman and the body seem to have completely different characteristics. The Chittattva and Achittattva are like chalk and cheese. Again, chalk and cheese is a very wrong analogy to give, but for our understanding, two completely distinct and different entities, which have nothing in common. One is constantly changing all the time, the other is never changing. But they seem to be bonded like the best friends, like BFFs, best friends forever. This association seems to never end. This Sambandha, how do I explain this Sambandha? Parikshit was puzzled. Why is this Atman in bond, in such a kind of a strong bond with this body, forever this bond? How can we explain this puzzle? So Shuka is trying to explain that puzzle. He says, Atmamayam Rite Rajan Parasyam Atmanaha. The bond of the Atman, this binding force between the Jivatma and the body made of Prakriti, it can only be explained only through the deluding power of Maya, Atma Maya, deluding power of Maya. What is the deluding power of Maya? Deluding power of Prakriti. What is this deluding power? It deludes, brings in, it deludes completely the Atman to such an extent that, as Krishna points out, Purushaha Prakritisto hi bhunte Prakritijan gunan Aranam Gunasangosya Sadasat Yoni Janmasu. By being situated in Prakriti, in an embodiment made of Prakriti, the Atman starts to identify itself and it starts to believe that all the pleasures, the source of pleasures is only coming because of the body, without realizing that the source of pleasure is not this, whatever the body is engaging with. None of this objects of matter is the source of pleasure at all. And this bond is because of the delusory power. Krishna, Sukha gives an example here. Swapna dashtu ivam jasa. In Swapna, in the dream state, this connection, he says, just like how in the dream state, the person dreaming, he can take different kinds of bodies in the dream state. And he goes through different kinds of experiences. Similarly, now we need to understand that whatever is happening in the dream state is also real. Bhagavan here, there is creating various objects in the dream, is also enabling creation of various bodies that one takes up in order to go through the dream experiences. Swapna drashtu rivam jasa. Similarly, even in the waking state, the same thing is applicable. One, the Atman takes up a particular kind of a body because there's a reason to undergo a set of experiences. And this body engages with a variety of objects around in order for these experiences to happen. What these experiences are, this is the prarabdha of the Atman. So therefore, here Sukha says, how do we understand this? We understand this the way that the deluding power of Prakriti makes the Atman to think, to want these experiences more and more, and wanting these experiences more and more, the Atman continues longing for this association. And Shuka says, Bahurupa Ivabhati Mayaya Bahurupaya. So this shloka beautifully clarifies this association and what happens because of this association. Very, very profound shloka, which Shuka gives the very essence of this association between the body and the Atman. He says, Bahurupa Ivabhati Mayaya Bahurupaya Ramamano Gudeshwasya Mamaham iti manyate. Mama aham iti manyate. Bahurupa Ivabhati. The Atman keeps taking different bodies, life after life, different forms, different names, different kinds of configuration, material configuration. It remains encaged in a material embodiment. While being encaged as a prisoner, being encaged, the Atman gets engaged in pleasures, falsely thinking that these pleasures are being produced by sensual objects with the interaction of the senses. The encaged living entity misconceives that it is this body which is responsible for that all the temporary fleeting pleasures that is experienced. Think therefore that I and mine start seeping in. Mama aham iti manyate. The delusory power of Prakriti, of Maya, is the ultimate robber, Shuka says. It's the ultimate robber. So we need to understand this analogy. Why this is, it robs completely. What it does? What kind of robbery it is? Imagine a burglar steals one's possessions, takes away all the cash and all the possessions. It's a loss, but as long as one has one's identity card, one's passport, one's ID card, one's passbook, whatever, one can possibly go to the bank and encash whatever is there in the bank. So therefore, now what if even the identity proofs are also stolen? Not only the possessions are gone, even whatever is there in the bank is also gone. Now let's take it one step further. Not only are all the possessions stolen, one's identity proof is stolen, one's very identity is also stolen. Which means the burglar now induces a sense of amnesia, a forgetfulness, and steals our very identity. Everything is lost. The delusory power of Prakriti is the ultimate burglar of not only our belongings, but also our belongingness, our identity, our very identity. What is our belonging? What is our most prized belonging? It is the most important thing that matters to us, our real treasure, our love for Krishna. The delusory power of Prakriti robs us of this belonging as well. When it robs us of this belonging, our love for Krishna, then immersed in worldliness, one starts to find difficulty in loving him. So that is where we start wondering, should I practice bhakti? Why should I practice bhakti? Bhakti is my very nature. It is not something alien to me, but it has become alien to me because of the power, or the illusory power of Prakriti, which steals my belonging. Not only steals my belonging, it steals my very belongingness, my very identity. What is my identity? I am servant of Krishna. That is my belongingness. It steals. Instead of I being his servant, I become Prakriti's servant. And I take pride in it. I'm very uncomfortable to declare I am Krishna Dasa. But I am very, very comfortable to declare I am Dasa of many ordinary mortals to whom I serve for the sake of material rewards. Therefore, Bahurupa Ivabhati Mayaya Bahurupaya, as the Atman with its association, Karanam Gunasangosya Sadasad Yoni Janmasu, Sadasad Yoni Janmasu. For eternity, the Atman keeps taking different kinds of births in good wombs and bad wombs, taking different kinds of forms, being associated perennially with different kinds of bodies, being engaged, imprisoned in different kinds of material bodies. This Prakriti, the Delhi, robs away the very belonging and the belongingness of the Atman. And Shuka says, this is fundamental. The moment that is robbed, then that is when the jiva continues to stay forever in the cycle of samsara. And that is the cause for bondage, for perennial bondage, and ignorance of that is also the reason why there is no escape route from the cycle of repeated births and deaths. Now, in order to answer straight away, immediately, this is liberation. This is the liberated world. This is the world where there is no liberation. This is the world of samsara, where everything is limited, everything is subject to change, where one is subject to afflictions all the time, physical, mental, all the time, where there is only incompleteness, there is no happiness. To contrast that, what is the state of liberation? What is moksha? In order to answer that, immediately Shuka refers to the conversation between Brahma and Bhagavan himself. Right at the beginning of creation, when Brahma was given all the Vedas, in order for Nitya Srishti to continue, Bhagavan also blesses Brahma. Now, Brahma, who is about to begin creation, he begins to hear two shabdas, two letters that emanate out of the fasting waters. Ta, pa, ta, pa, ta, pa, tapa, tapa, tapa. Brahma realizes the first thing that he needs to do to create, the creation begins out of tapas. This is a big lesson for us, even for our mundane creation that we do ourselves. Anything that needs to be created and recreated has to have its source in tapas. Brahma begins with his tapas. Brahma engages in tapas on Narayana, and the outcome of Brahma's tapas, Tasmai Swalokam Bhagavan Sabhajitaha Sandarshayamasa Paramam Nayat Param Yapeta Sanklesha Vimoha Satvasam Swadrishpadhir Purushai Abhishtutam. Immediately, as a reward for his tapas, Bhagavan reveals to Brahma. Brahma has presented the glorious vision of Vaikuntha. Tasmai Swalokam Bhagavan Sabhajitaha Sandarshayamasa Paramam Nayat Param Yapeta Sanklesha Vimoha Satvasam. That Vaikuntha where there is which is completely devoid of all material afflictions, where there is no delusory power whatsoever, where there is no moha, there is no vimoha, sadhvasa, where there is no fear of any material existence, where one transcends all afflictions, apakatapatma, vijaraha, vimuttihu, vishokaha, vijigitsaha, abhivasaha, satyakamaha, satyasankalpaha. Or the one transcends all limitations and reaches that state of limitlessness. Swadrishpadhir purushaihi abhishpitum. The glorious vision of Vaikuntha, the abode of Bhagavan, where there are no miseries whatsoever. Brahma is overwhelmed with that vision. Vartate yatra rajastamastayoho satvam cha vishvam cha nakala vikramaha nayatra mayakim utapare hare anuprata yatra surasurachitaha. Where rajas and tamas, not sattva mixed with rajas and tamas, have no place. That Vaikuntha where there is only Shuddha Sattva. That Vaikuntha, Sattvam cha Vishram cha Nakala Vikramaha. That Vaikuntha where time ravage is completely unknown, which is beyond the force of time, where Maya does not operate. Nayatra Maya Kim Utapare. Hare Anubrata Yatra Surasurachitaha. Where there are no discriminations whatsoever. All are equal and are in the same blissful state, worshipping Bhagavan all together. All are only devotees doing Kainkarya, nothing else to Bhagavan. Syamavadata Satapatralochana Vishangavastra Shurjasupesha Sarve Chaturbaha Unmishan Mani Praveka Nishkavarana Suvachasaha. Bhagavan makes a glorious glimpse of the vision of Vaikuntha. All the inhabitants there in the spiritual realm are gloriously beautiful, extremely attractive. Brahma sees several forearms similar to Bhagavan, bedecked with divine ornaments, effulgence, full of glow. In the Jitante Stotra, it is revealed Moksham Salokya Sarupyam Prarthanete Kadachana Icchamyaham Mahavaho Sayujyam Tava Subrata. The various states of attaining the moksha. Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, Sayuchya. Salokya is reaching near the Vaikuntha Loka. Sarupya seems with the liberation from this world of afflictions, from the material world, in the Aprakrita Mandala, one is also blessed with Sarupya, form similar to Bhagavan. So Brahma is seeing a limitless number of four-armed forms, all glowing, all effulgent, blissful. Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, reaching Bhagavan very close, and Sayuchya. So together, Atman and the Paramatma are together engaged in experiencing limitless bliss, and Brahma gets a glimpse of such Vaikuntha Loka. He is enabled to visualize the wonder of all wonders, the boundlessly beautiful Vaikuntha Loka, which is beyond words. How can an Aprakrita Mandala be described by using Prakrita? Means he sees all divine beauty there, and also he sees Sri Mahalakshmi there in her transcendent form, engaged in loving service to Bhagavan. He also sees all the Nityas, all the Muktas. He sees Nanda, Sunanda, Prabala, Arhana. He sees all the Nityasuris. And Brahma is overwhelmed with vision. Nitya Prasadha Vimukham Dirga Sabam Prasanna Hasarana Lochananam Kiritanam Kundalinam Chaturbhujam Itam Sukam Vakshasi Lakshitam Sriya. Finally, he has the glorious vision of Narayana, Vaikunthanatha, the Paravasudeva, who it seems Pritya Prasadabhimukam Dridvasam. Narayana Bhagavan is favorably, it seems, leaning towards those who are serving him. And Prasanna Hasaruna Lochananana, and very pleased Bhagavan with his smiling face, with his Pundarikaksha, with that enchanting, exquisitely beautiful eyes, with the reddish hue. He is directly looking at all his bhaktas. Kiritinam Kundarinam Chaturbhujam Itam Sukam Vakshasi Lakshitam Sriya. Well, Brahma gets that vision of Bhagavan Vaikunthanatha, who is bedecked with divine ornaments. Sumochita Vividha Vichitradantas Chatya Nitya Niravadya Niratisha Niradesha Fokasparisha Niradesha Outjoya Kirita Putavai Kirita Mukuta Chudavatamsa Makarakundala Greve Kahara Keyu Rakataka Sivatsada La Muktadhava Mudarabandara Kanchi Guna Nupuradi Aparimita Divya Bhushana. It is so, the vision is so overwhelmingly beautiful that Brahma began to be inundated with bliss, and which manifested as horripilations all over his body. Adyarkanisham asthitham param vritam chatushodasa pancha saktivihi yuktam bhagaihi svai itatara chadruvaihi svayeva dharman ramanama ishwaram. Brahma could visualize that Bhagavan is the one who is endowed with the 25 expressions of Shakti. What is his energies? The twin properties of Prakriti and Purusha. Why the number 25? Purusha is one tattva. Prakriti can be subdivided into 24 tattvas. So therefore here it says Vritam Chatuhu Shodasha Pancha Shaktivihi. Chatuhu Shodasha Pancha. 4, 16, 5. 25, which is Purusha plus 24 tattvas of Prakriti. He is the one endowed with all the 25 expressions of his Shakti. Yuktam Bhagais Svai Itaratara Chadruvai. He is also the one endowed with his Bhagavan, Jnana Bala Veerya Shakti Tejas. He is the one who is endowed with Jnana, Shakti, Aishwarya, Veerya, Tejas, all the 6 gunas limitlessly. Therefore, he is the Bhagavan. Looking at that vision, that Darshanalabha Anipurnantaro Krishyatanu Prema Bharashulochanaha. It seems on seeing that Vaikunthanatha, Brahma was inundated by bliss. Nanam Padhambujamasya Vishwasrika. He was inundated by bliss, which overflowed as horripilations all over his body, and torrential rains from the torrential tears started to flow from his eyes, and he immediately prostrates to Narayana. नानाम पदाम्बुज अस्य विश्वस्सृक् यत् परामहंस्येन अथाधिगम्यते. He realizes that the only way to attain his feet, Bhagavan's lotus feet, is what the Paramahamsas teach, which is bhakti to the divine lotus feet. Now, Brahma surrenders to Bhagavan, and in that surrender, Brahma also gets answers to all his questions as he is about to start creation. And as part of the answers that Brahma gets is what is embedded and what is celebrated as Chatushloki Bhagavata. Now we need to understand that this is being recounted as part of answers to Parikshit by Shukha. Shukha, instead of himself giving directly answers, he is referring to what Bhagavan gave as knowledge to Brahma. Those answers address Parikshit's questions. So Brahma is now, Parikshit is in a state of surrender to Shukha in order to get answers to his questions. Shukha is recounting what happened between Brahma and Narayana. Brahma is in a state of surrender to Narayana and is going to receive answers to his questions, which ultimately are answers to Parikshit's questions. So in order for us to get further details and answers to several questions that Parikshit asked, more importantly, how to know his wondrous opulence, his wondrous virya, we need to understand the very essence of the teachings given by Narayana to Brahma, which is celebrated through 4 verses. 4 simple but profound verses, which popularly celebrated as Chatushloki Bhagavata. With 4 shlokas, Narayana summarizes the essence of his Adbhuta Shakti, which we will discuss in the next session. And with that, we will also conclude with the Skanda. But until then, let us continue to contemplate on that Aprakrita Mandala, that Vaikuntha Loka, which even Brahma was trying to visualize and trying to explain, which is not possible to just put them into words. All that we can do is try to visualize ourselves and experience that bliss. Let's continue to enjoy and experience that bliss until we meet next week to discuss Chatushloki Bhagavata and conclude the Skanda.